Hi, everybody. Mitch Tanenbaum here. Thanks for joining me today. This is the Security News update for August 6th, 2023. In the security and privacy alerts, this is the breach that does not go away and will not end. I'm not exactly sure when it will. The victim count for the Move It breach, Progress Software's problem, is over 500 organizations, and probably by the time we're done with all this, we'll probably be at 100 million victims. The hackers are disclosing information in batches, like 50 companies at a time. There's so much data to throw out there. Um, you know, Maximus, which is a government contractor, said they lost 11 million people information. The National Student Clearinghouse holds data on 20 million. Um, expect this to become one of the largest breaches that we've seen in a long time. And it's going to be an interesting class action because typically, think of a big breach with 100 million records, right? That uh, typically refers to historically one company, but this is going to be like 1,000 companies and 100 million plaintiffs and tens of terabytes of data. How do you actually litigate that? It's an interesting challenge. We shall see. Stay tuned on that one. But I anticipate we'll see more and more companies come clean on the breach after their lawyers approve whatever it is they're going to say. And this is not going to be over for a while. Um, the SEC has released new cybersecurity reporting rules. Right now, at least, this mostly affects publicly traded companies. The rules take effect very quickly, 30 days after they're published in the Federal Register, which is kind of a really short timeline for the federal government. It requires a lot more public disclosure, and it also covers organizations like broker-dealers, registered investment advisors, and investment companies. It requires increased security practices. It requires more cybersecurity expertise. Um, and after this regulation goes into effect, companies will have 96 hours to report a significant breach. That's not very long. And if you're not prepared for that in advance when that happens, you will definitely run afoul of that rule. Obviously, if you need help uh, being in a position to be prepared, should that really bad eventuality happen, please contact us. In the software and hardware department, Google is they're trying really hard to not do things that will kill them. But I'll talk about in a minute Meta. It's going to be hard because the walls are closing in on big tech, uh, slowly but closing in. So Google is now allowing you to uh, control some of the information if you have PII, personally identifiable information, that comes up in a Google search. There's now a way to get Google to take it down. For users under 18, YouTube is cracking down or closing down some of the issues there. It doesn't help adults very much, but it does help minors a lot, which is a good thing. And they're trying hard to not be on the wrong side of the law. Well, if we make these minor concessions, will they not make us make really important concessions? It really talks to what's going on with Meta right now in the European Union. Um, they're in a position where they're being fined literally billions of dollars, and they're in a legal battle which they're not going to win. They can delay the inevitable, they're not going to win. But Google blinked, and they said that in the European Union, they will allow people to opt out of targeted advertising. We saw what happened when Apple changed their model to require opt-in, and something in excess of 90% of the people did not opt in. And this is going to be a little bit harder, but I'm guessing the European Union is going to say, if you make it hard, then we're going to fine you some more. So we shall see what happens there. Um, Targeted advertising generates most of Meta's revenue. So if they and untargeted advertising, which is just throw some random ad at you, doesn't generate squat for revenue. So it's going to be interesting to see what Meta does in the rest of the world. But what they've said is that, well, we've listened carefully to the regulatory feedback from the Irish Data Protection Commissioner, meaning we know we're in trouble, so we give. Um, and so we made this change. So, does this happen elsewhere? Does it happen with other platforms? Twitter is not going to go quietly. So we'll just have to see. In the education department, this is kind of a different bit of education. The White House unveiled what they call a whole of society push to expand the cybersecurity workforce. As many people know, there's a huge shortage of cybersecurity expertise around the world. And the what they're calling the National Cyber Workforce and Education Strategy includes tens of millions of dollars in grants to higher education institutions um, and to do training, cyber training for people who are interested to make that more affordable. Separately, Craig Newmark, who is the founder of Craigslist, is ponying up 100 million bucks of his own money to help the cause. And this is great and it's needed and it'll definitely help things, but it's really only going to make a small dent in the problem. So, but it's great. I mean, at least we're doing something about it. In the breaches department, mattress giant Tempur Sealy shut down its systems after a cyber attack. The attack started on July 23rd, and they reported it to the SEC on July 31st, which is pretty quick. Now, that's still not the 96 hours that they're going to have to be reporting things in after the new regulations go into effect, but still pretty good. Their 8K report said that they shut down certain systems, causing an interruption in the company's operations. So we'll hopefully find out more later, but right now, that's all we know. Next, boxing equipment vendor Everlast got hacked. Credit cards were stolen. And in this particular case, credit cards are relatively easy to replace. They're painful. Nobody likes getting their credit cards replaced, but there's no really information which is difficult to replace. So the challenge they have, of course, is they have about 300,000 visitors a month to their website, and all those people are victims to this issue. So we shall see where the lawsuits go with that one. Next in the breaches, Hawaii's Gemini North Observatory suspended operations after a cyber attack. That's part of the National Science Foundation's National Optical Infrared Astronomy Research Laboratory, or NOIR lab. They're not saying much other than they've isolated things at the lab in Hawaii. They also have a lab in Chile, and that's down for maintenance, whatever that means. Now, maybe that was planned, who knows? But bizarrely, they said, "Oh, but our brochureware website that's up." Well, no research is going on, no observing is going on, no proposal work is going on. So that's a real problem. The fact that their advertisement is visible on the web, I guess that's important to them. Seems like it's of minor importance to me. Next, the government is not having a great week this week. The government bureaucracy moves agonizingly slowly. I can personally say that I've been involved in things in my entire career, going back to the 1980s. The Pentagon working on cybersecurity and insider threat. Obviously it's not handled. Last week, the DoD's Inspector General just lambasted the components of the DoD for not implementing the regulations as created by the Pentagon for protecting controlled unclassified information. They also revealed that what we saw on Guam and the Chinese infiltrating the power grid is far from limited to Guam. In fact, it's apparently pretty widespread, and it affects both military bases as well as civilian stuff. And then lastly, the Air Force is investigating a guy, a sailor, an airman, who apparently stole a bunch of radio equipment and kind of replicated the Air Force Education Training Command's communications network in his house. We don't know. Maybe he was just a curious person. Haven't heard why, but not a great week. And likely this is just the tip of the iceberg. This is just, I saw another story of two more Navy, in this case, Navy folks who were arrested for espionage. So, the good news is that we're starting at least to catch some of these guys, and we are actually catching them. These are not like warrants that'll never be executed. These are people who are literally in jail. So that's a good thing, but I mean, they're just not doing enough to protect things. Um, Next, we still have the problem with remote work, even though bosses would like everybody to come back to the office. The reality is that's never going to happen. There will be some companies where everybody come back to the office. There'll be a lot of companies where a lot of people will not ever come back to the office. It'll be a true hybrid work environment. And the security, the attack surface is hugely increased as a result of working remotely, and we're just not doing enough to go protect the companies. Again, if you need help with that, let us know. Next, inside war here. Amit Yoran, who is got a very, very impressive set of technical credentials, says that Microsoft is being grossly irresponsible for protecting our assets. And he's probably got something to say. The challenge that these big tech companies in the cloud have, and this is Microsoft's just being in the news because they're Microsoft and they're kind of the 800-pound gorilla in this space, and as a result of that, they gather a lot of attention. But it's no different at Google and Amazon and all the other cloud providers. Not to mention which the second and third tier cloud providers, which is probably a lot worse. I mean, we don't know. They don't tell us. They're not. That's one of Amit's complaints. They don't tell us what's going on. Sometimes they tell us after the fact. But in this particular case, he was talking about a full account compromise situation, and was still impacting some folks when he published just a scathing article on LinkedIn. And curiously, Microsoft managed to fix the problem in about 3 or 4 days after that article went public because all of a sudden there was some transparency and they couldn't hide the fact that these companies were vulnerable to attack. So they can move. The challenge that everybody has is, you're driving on the road while you're paving it, and that often can be a challenge. Also, they don't want to break things. They're not Facebook. They actually don't want customers to not be able to do their work. They don't want them to lose their data. And so, so they have to be very careful, especially on these older systems, which are very brittle. And lastly, on the security news bites, we're getting closer to the end of the line for Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, which allows limited at least, bulk data collection on foreign nationals and some U.S. Citizens. It expires at the end of the year. There's a whole bunch of hand waving, gnashing of teeth, and whining about, oh, gee, the world will end if it goes away. But the challenge they've got, the administration, is that nobody trusts the FBI anymore, neither the left nor the right. And that's at least if you had one side or the other, singing your praises, you'd probably be possibly you could go off and get things passed. But when nobody likes you, you really got a problem. In the private sector, Tesla's fighting a jailbreak problem in their infotainment system. Seems like the infotainment system needs to be much better firewalled off than it is in most cars, because that seems to be a very common attack vector. But anyway, what this jailbreak allows you to do is unlock paid features like heated rear seats and increased performance, and more importantly, pretend full self-driving features. So according to these guys, it requires direct hands-on access to the car. So this is going to be a car owner who might do this, and maybe $100 worth of parts and some technical skills. And apparently the researchers claim that this is going to be very, very difficult for Tesla to actually fix. They may not care. There may not be enough of these people who do this that it really is a problem for them, just because of the level of sophistication of the user that's required in order to make this work. but it is interesting. And Tesla has got a great track record in terms of cybersecurity. I mean, the whole car is basically a computer on wheels, so there's a lot of surface to attack. Next, ByteDance is facing more privacy issues. This is now with a different ByteDance product that apparently is doing all kinds of things wrong from a privacy standpoint, and apparently it looks like violating COPPA as well, because there's at least one kid who's involved in this lawsuit who supposedly is a seventh grader who was able to go off and get on to the software, and it's an image editing or video editing package. Get on, use the software, never see a license agreement, never agree to a license agreement, never see anything about their privacy protection. It's just not great for ByteDance. Not that I particularly care about that. ByteDance is not a national treasure to me, but obviously to the hundreds of millions of people worldwide that are using it, they kind of like it. EU manufacturers are not going to have to report vulnerabilities to a single EU-wide cybersecurity directorate, but they will have to report vulnerabilities to their individual countries' computer incident response team. I don't know that helps them a whole lot. Hopefully, the CSIRTs will talk to each other, and that will have the same effect as reporting at national. There's a lot of bureaucracy going on there, so I don't know that that's really going to happen. Certainly not as well as if it was a central team. And lastly, you know, the blockchain of everything. Everybody wants to put everything on the blockchain. Maybe that's a great plan. What we're seeing with quantum computers, probably within the next decade, that a malicious quantum computer could generate enough blockchain traffic to basically shut down the verifiers, that it could potentially take something like 140 days to verify one block. And during that verification process, nothing gets posted to the blockchain. So this doesn't, what they're saying, what they're proposing, doesn't seem terribly far-fetched in terms of, a bad actor being able to do that. So, not great. That's all I have for now. If you need assistance, obviously, please come out and reach out and talk to us. And until next time, stay safe. Thanks for listening.
Turnkey Cybersecurity and Privacy Solutions offers the complete cybersecurity program for small to medium-sized businesses. They include everything needed to secure your business and meet compliance requirements. Visit our website at turnkeycybersecurityandprivacysolutions.com to learn more.